Welcome back or welcome to the Surf Mastery Podcast. I am your host, Michael Frampton. Today's guest is Coach Chris from Surf Continuum, and we've got two experienced surf coaches, Coach Chris and myself, having a really deep conversation about all things surfing, from philosophy to coaching, ethics to surf culture, plus much, much more. But before we get into that, I just wanted to mention I've been using the surf paddle trainer from Surf Basis, and it's actually really, really good. I interviewed Van, the founder, who has his own podcast. That was back in episode 123, all about how paddling transforms your surfing. Van Vu from Basis Surf Podcast, and yeah, he sent me one of the surf paddle trainers, and it's actually blown my mind a bit of how good it is. So just a reminder of how important paddling is and keeping your paddling fitness in between surfs is. And you do get a discount as a listener to this podcast, $30 off using the discount code SURFMASTERY. So you go to surfbasis.com, use the discount code SURFMASTERY to get a decent discount on that awesome product. Links to that in the show notes. And back to today's episode. So as I mentioned, it's Coach Chris from Surf Continuum. He's an experienced surf coach. I love Chris's philosophy, and there's heaps of gold in this episode for all levels of surfers. Coach Chris and his business partner Evan have a podcast as well. It's called the Kook Cast, available on all platforms. And of course, you can go to Surf Continuum to check out everything that they do. They do one-on-ones in California and on the East Coast in New York at surfcontinuum.com. And of course, they've got lots of educational resources, audios, videos there as well. But as I said, this is an episode for everyone. Little side note, the first 10 to 15 minutes is really targeted towards the beginner surfer. So if you're an experienced surfer and you get a little bit bored in the first 10 minutes, just skip ahead to about the 15-minute mark. And that's where we really get into the weeds. And without further ado, I shall fade in my conversation with Coach Chris.
It's cool because our philosophy is the same. It's our unifying kind of path, but obviously our personalities and our approaches and delivery of that same philosophy comes out differently.
So what's the philosophy?
Let me just put it really simple first, and then we can get into the nuance and the nitty-gritty of it. Fundamentals. That's it. As somebody who really appreciates learning and also teaching, my mother was a teacher. My father, he wasn't a formal teacher, but he was a good teacher at whatever he was trying to share with you. For him, it would be mostly sailing, but anything. He was patient and just, he had the art, he could have been a teacher. And just something I really started catching on to with anything I was interested in was that if you could figure out what the basic things were, and I mean the most basic, like really break it down to the cellular level, you can build everything up from there. And also because it's very easy to get distracted by the goal or the big picture or the ultimate destination. And with surfing, that's riding a beautiful wave. I guess you have the cover shot in your head when you think of surfing and when you start learning, but really that's like the end result. The work to get there is just comprised of a lot of very simple things that individually anybody can learn in a day, but it's piecing it all together and getting the timing and the application. That's where it becomes like the complex looking thing, but really broken down, it's all simple things, fundamentals. And that's what I feel like I want to do with my students is bring them back to this basic deconstruction of surfing. I think it makes it a lot more digestible too. It's less intimidating. You don't have to do all these things. You just have to focus on one piece at a time. And then as you put it all together, it starts to become, oh, this is it. I'm doing surfing.
It's so true. Yeah, the fundamentals are unavoidable, and they're there for every surfer, whether you're a beginner or you're even someone really technical like Chipper Wilson. He's still, in order to do a technical air, you still have to do a good bottom turn. You still have to read the ocean correctly and do a good pop-up. So sometimes we only see him do some weird technical trick, We don't realize it all comes from fundamentals. And then you've got surfers who have made a name just sticking to only the fundamentals. I mean, there's nothing more beautiful than watching John just do a bottom top turn combo.
Oh man, yeah. A great person to watch and see simple surfing done beautifully. Yeah, but I really do believe that the simplicity and masterful execution of the most simple things, it looks really great. It looks really complex. It looks really professional. And it doesn't necessarily have to be anything that's all that difficult. It's just I think we easily as humans we want to get on with it. You know, you want to get to what you think you're trying to do. And it rushes you past things that you should really get a little bit more obsessed over, you know? And when you really spend all your time and just really obsessed, that's the word. You get obsessed with it and you don't move on so easily. Like, oh yeah, yeah, I know how to paddle. I know how to paddle. If you get obsessed, you start really discovering things. You start figuring out just how you lay on your board can change the world for you and how you catch waves.
Yeah, so true. So you started Surf Continuum, correct?
Mhm.
Which is a surf school. Is that the best way to put it?
I would say no. School sounds like a big group of people. One thing that, so my partner and I started the Surf Continuum, Evan and we did work in surf schools, and the business model with the surf schools is volume based, just try to crack off as much as you can in one day. And I understand it, no, not throwing any shade. I get why that has to be done, especially for seasonal places like where I live. We have a small window where tourists can come out and surf and have a comfortable time. So you really are forced to pack it in as much as you can in a day. But just right off the bat of doing it, something didn't sit right with me when I joined this group. And I remember one like our probably our first busy day of the year, just looking kind of left and right and realizing like, whoa, the majority of the lineup is us, our the instructors with their students. It's a pretty powerful thing to go out with a surf instructor who's put all these years in and understands where to position, how to set you up and get you into a wave. And then with the push and all, we were getting so good. We were barely pushing our students into waves. We could instruct them to get them moving and doing all the stuff. And then just that little guidance where people usually hesitate and pull back. That's where you just kind of insist that they continue with a little nudge from the tail. But I didn't really like it. I felt like I've always had it in my heart. I grew up in like real surf culture where, if you were riding anything over than 6 foot, not that this is right, but if you were riding anything over 6 foot, you get out of here, go down the beach, whatever. If you showed up with more than a friend, or you came packed in a car or boat, another reason to shoo you away if at best. So all those things kind of influenced the surfer I became later in my life. And that was one of them was like, wow, we're crowding this spot. And the people who are out here to surf can't really surf around us because we're good at what we do. So not only is it us as good surfers, but we're getting all these students into waves, and then we're following them in on our own wave. Like there was just no meat left on the bones for any other surfers. And I felt like that wasn't right. It felt like beginners need to earn their way up. They need to work their way up. And I just kind of took it upon myself. I'm like, well, I can't change the world or even change this surf school. So I'm going to go out on my own and I'm going to teach strictly like one-on-ones. I'm not going to try and grow. I'm not going to try and get more instructors. And I'm going to try to impart a little bit more of that surf culture that influenced me. And I'll filter out some of the unnecessary ego stuff, of course. Boards. Now I ride everything. I ride finless foamies, mid lengths, probably longboards the least, but I got nothing against them. And then of course my shortboard, but probably least of all now is what I ride. But the other stuff, the parts of surf culture that I felt were good and reasonable and what made you really feel like you belong to the culture, I try to keep in my teachings. And so one of those things is not showing up in a big old group, being discreet, being respectful, not paddling out to the peak as a new beginner just because you're with an instructor and thinking you're going to get all the waves. No, I humble myself and I sit on the inside with my student and we pick up scraps and we pull back if there isn't, if someone's on it. And it's just, it really makes the journey more impactful. And I feel like it makes the stages of your growth feel better than having it all in the first day, or the first few moments of surfing. To get all of the rewards so early kind of spoils the rest of the journey, I think.
Yeah, that tourist experience, it gives you a false perspective on surfing, I think, sometimes, isn't it? Yeah, they're trying to
Sure,
get you to
yeah, yeah.
stand up on the first wave and perfect conditions and the right beach and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's again like we're getting at. These are earned things. These are things that you start picking up on, like, oh, when the wind's offshore, the conditions are cleaner. Huh. I didn't put that together until like I don't know how many years into surfing. I just wanted to get to the beach, and if I saw whitewater, I was pumped. It took me a long time before I started thinking about conditions. And also I was a kid, but I think that's a really important mentality to try and capture in your beginner days is like this tolerance for anything. Like you're just so pumped to get another chance to practice that you don't care about conditions. In fact, what something I like to say is the worst condition is crowd. And when is there a crowd? When surf line's calling green. So when I get like these onshore wind reports or when we're getting like, oh, bad day for surfing, quote unquote, I'm writing out to my students on my little mailing list I have, and I'm going, this is going to be a great day for us. There's going to be nobody out. We should all be surfing. This is our day. Bring back that, ground mentality of, less people, at least less crowd, I should say, because people are great, but it's the crowd, the pack, and the people who are attracted to the good conditions where you start getting this, it taints your mindset too early in your surfing journey.
Yeah. Well, that's a great origin story, and it's the best sort of philosophy for a surf coach to have. I hope it catches on because
I
surf,
don't think so, man.
I think it'll balance out some. I mean, it has to. I mean, there's certain spots where it won't. You're right, especially
Hmm.
beginner friendly spots. It's always going to sort of be that way. In a way, it's sort of the conditions when the conditions get challenging. It's sort of that's what separates the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. And I just think as experienced surfers who hold on to those sort of old school, traditional, ethical surf values, we just have to travel really, and we have to embrace that adventure surfer in us, and or ride a different board around the corner where the waves aren't so crowded. That's sort of what I do. But it's a shame.
Absolutely,
It's a
yeah.
shame when your local spot turns on, you want to surf it. You're kind of zigzagging your way through a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing. It can be
Yeah,
frustrating.
there are days where the perfect storm comes together and it's like not too big that they can't send them out, but it is just pristine and beautiful and it really should be something more reserved for the ones who've put their time in. But one other thing to the origin story is that I understand also the tourist approach to it. The amusement park ride. Let's just call it what it is. I think my problem is not that business model itself. It's more so the semantics. They're still calling it surf lessons or surf instruction. And it's like, no, no, that's not instruction. This is a ride. It's a
Mm,
very fun ride. Yes, enjoy it, have fun. And a lot of those people, they don't come back to go surfing again, or maybe they do next summer, but they're not actually trying to learn how to surf. They just kind of want to have the experience. Cool, that's fine. What I started finding though in those people were people who did want to learn how to surf, who really had this intention of like, I think this is something I want to commit to, but they were just falling into the same tourist version of the lessons, but because it was called surf lessons, they thought they're in the right place. And I was like, okay, these are my people. There's fewer of them mixed into the rest of the tourist crowd, but if I can get my message right and my voice out there to help these people identify themselves as not quite the surf lesson crowd and find me instead, I thought, okay, there's a path for me here. There's people because that'll never change. There's always going to be tourists who want to go on the surf ride, and let them. I don't mind. I just the people who really want to learn how to surf, they're the ones that I want to capture and be like, okay, come on, let's go out when the conditions are shitty. Let's go paddle. Let's go talk about for the whole time how to paddle better, how to position on the board. Let's get nuanced and crazy about all that stuff. Let's not go to the best wave where the people are like you said and go down there. There's no one there and the wave is just less often or smaller or a little bit more tidal, whatever it is, but accept all those things as part of the journey of learning how to surf.
Yeah. Oh, there's such a need for that way of thinking, especially because there's so many people that I think did have that tourist experience surf. Their first experience was with a tourist operator, and and then they thought, I don't want to commit to this. And then I think back when we grew up surfing, the locals and the elders, they sort of shunned us and shamed us and probably spoke quite harshly to us. And that's how we learnt some of the ethics and the finer details of in surfing. But there's just so many newcomers to surfing that those people don't have the time to do that. So basically, nowadays, instead of the elder local surfers actually imparting some wisdom, albeit maybe a little too harshly, but hey, they just ignore it and that they just surf around you and
Yeah.
drop in on you. And so there's all these people that aren't getting knowledge from the locals. They're just having locals run rings around them because they don't have you don't have the time. It used to be one or two new surfers in the water you educate that way, but nowadays there's, gosh, it feels like there's 50 sometimes that you got to literally surf through. You don't have time to stop and say, hey, you make sure you don't paddle in front of me and keep over there or whatever it is. So we need more of what you're doing for sure. So happy to help you put the message out there. But
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
let's go back even further. When
Okay.
when did you personally start surfing?
Oh, okay. So I was a little bit older. I wasn't like a grom, like I really wished I had been 4, 5, and 6. Like my daughter, she's dragging her boogie around when she's, 1.5 years old. I love it. I'm so excited for her to have that experience, literally just dragging the boogie around. Hasn't even gone with her boogie in the ocean and tried to get waves yet. Now she's 2.5. But so I started surfing around 12, and I probably wanted to surf for a year and a half before that, but it took me a good year and a half, maybe two, to get a surfboard. Leading up to that, I had the best foundation that anybody could have to learn how to surf, which is boogie boarding, bodyboarding, whatever you'd like to call it. I like it. I like boogie. That's what I grew up calling it, and I still like to call it boogie, the boogie board. And I've been doing that since, Grom days, just out in the water, straight up the beach, out in the water, waist deep, straight up the beach, blasted by whitewater over and over and over again. And it wasn't until I started teaching surfing that I realized how important that was as a foundation for my surfing. And then also realizing like, oh my God, every great surfer to some extent or another rode their boogie. It's a high rep, safe, manageable piece of equipment. There's just it's so much surfing packed into such a smaller amount of time. And on all these adults I work with that just get on a surfboard, it's tough because it takes not only longer because they're adults and we all know that children learn things so much better, and as you get older you're just less supple both physically and mentally to take new things on. Now by skipping the boogie and all the reps you can get and the high intense amount of work you can get done, you're going out there paddling, sitting, waiting, passing up waves if you're being respectful, ethical surfer because it's not your turn. You can't get in position better than other people. You're going surfing when it's good conditions, so everyone else is out there. So you can really potentially get into a tough spot. So I had been boogie boarding. I apologize for all these tangents.
I'm
I
going to
had been
interject
boogie
one
boarding.
thing that I think
Sure.
the roots of surfing is, and what I tell my kids all the time is when it's raining outside and you get a piece of cardboard and you walk up a little hill and you slide down and you walk back up and you come. That's it. And I always remind my kids, hey, remember a couple of years ago when you just walked out to chest deep water and rode a whitewater wave in? That's just go out there, catch a wave, come in. That's all it is. It's just real simple, letting Mother Nature give you some glide. That's the roots, and
Yeah.
that's why adults get caught up. So, and they don't realize that as kids, we, especially good surfers, went through that stage for often years.
Years, years. And it was years for me. And like I said, I mean, towards the end of those years, I wanted to surf so bad. I was trying to stand on my boogie board because you're a kid, and I fell for the whole I'm not surfing. Boogie boarding isn't surfing. Surfing is surfing. But yeah, 12 or 13 years old is when I started, and then I was hard. I any opportunity. My father is a sailor, and he loved to sail in the ocean on like Hobie cats, like beach cats. He wasn't just like a leisure cruisy sailor. He wanted to rip and go sailing in the ocean. So that was great for me because now we both want to go to the ocean. And I grew up sailing with him. Now this is where I started. He was a big part of my love for the ocean, but this is I started finding my own passion in the ocean, but we both still needed to go to the same place. So I could easily get him to go, to the ocean. He even just to check his boats. It was so easy. So I could go to the beach with him. My friend had a boat, and that was a key because I lived right by the water, but shadowed by barrier islands. So you'd either have to drive 30 minutes in either direction to get a bridge across to the barrier islands and then drive to the beach. So it could be like a 40-minute ride to get to surfing by car, but by boat, it was like 10 minutes. And believe it or not, at an early age, we were allowed to take that boat somehow. I don't know. Thinking back on it, it's crazy that they allowed us. And his dad thought he was doing like a good thing. He put a governor on the boat so that we could putt across. We figured out how to take that thing off in no time. So we were flying full steam ahead across the bay. But yeah, just trying to get to the beach any chance I got, any possible way until I could drive. And yeah, then I was driving illegally for 2 years to get myself to the beach. So it was just about surfing. Like once I started riding surfboards, it dictated like all the decisions I made in my life.
Yep. And how would you describe your current relationship to surfing and the ocean, and how has it evolved over the years?
Oh, that's a great question because I really do think about that kind of thing. Like where it was, we were watching some videos recently, a couple of friends I grew up surfing with, and we were like, were we better? Did we surf better back then? Because we were like, wow, I feel like I was ripping there, and like now I'm so much more leisure. I care about different things is the conclusion I came to. Back then I really cared about like how much water was flying off my tail when I, snapped it up in the lip, how well I connected it. Sure, I still want to do a great turn, but I care more now about positioning in the ocean. I care more about being a good surfer in different ways. The way I see the ocean, the way I see water moving, like the invisible forces that you don't realize until you're looking back at the beach and you realize you're 300 yards down from where you started. I like to be more on top of that now, ahead of the game, and be observant of other surfers and what's happening to them in the water. I certainly ride all kinds of boards now. I'll ride anything, which is a stark contrast from what I used to be. I used to be die hard short board, 5'8", 5'7", thrusters only. Now I can't even tell you the last time I rode a thruster. I'm on 20s, I'm on finless boards, and I've really come to know what I like because it's what I decided I like and not what I felt like I had to do to appease, I don't know, the group I was hanging with. Even they didn't know what they were, we were all obeying some unknown higher power of what it meant to be a good surfer. And it was totally wrong for 99% of us.
The
Maybe
industry.
for the guys looking to go pro. Yeah, the industry, right, right. And I think the other way that I've changed in my surfing is I wrote this in a PDF for my students, but it's called The Art of Missing Waves. And it's a layered philosophy. There's many aspects to how you can gracefully miss a wave. One of them, the obvious, is that you don't try too hard to catch a wave that isn't quite doing it. We've all been there. You see a wave, it looks great, you start going for it, and it starts laying down. It hits a deep spot or something, it doesn't quite keep standing. And how many people do you see double down and paddle harder to try and insist on catching it? So the art of missing waves is like, no, let it go. Like read the room. It's not a wave you should be riding. But it's also a little more philosophical in the sense that you can't always be at the ocean when it's firing. You can't always get your session in when you want to, especially now having kids and a wife and these other things, other responsibilities that are, well, they're scoring in their own ways. But if you're so locked into surfing and you keep that teenager head space about having to be there, you drive yourself crazy. So I've also become a lot more willing and graceful about missing sessions. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I surf less,
Mm,
and I'm not
yeah.
mad about it.
Yeah.
I've surfed a lot in my life, and I'm very content with how much I've surfed and how much I still surf. And I just feel like, yeah, I'm scoring in new ways now in my life, and it's fun, it's exciting, and I want to enjoy it, and I don't want to wish myself away or wish I was somewhere else while I'm actually doing things that other people dream of having.
Yeah. So would you say that when you do surf, your equipment is fits the conditions better, your attitude fits the conditions better, and you're actually more present as well?
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I always like to say, like, being a good surfer or a surfer is just a label that we like to use for ourselves, ourselves being humans. So if you want to be a better surfer, you can be a better human, and it really helps you, like we just said, not missing when you're missing the waves, not FOMO or whatever, torturing yourself. And then on the other hand, when you are surfing, being really grateful for it, being really present, I like that word you used, and just, yeah, being there and enjoying every bit of it. I think that's just a maturity thing of so many years of surfing and also just getting older as a human that you come to realize. Maybe not everybody, but I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, there's a thought I have around that, which is I see surfing in a similar way. Like I went through a state when I was younger, I was completely obsessed with it. There was FOMO, there was short boards, wanting to rip the bag out of it every turn, blah, blah, the same kind of thing, right? And I spent a lot of time and effort in getting better at surfing short boards and seeking fast, powerful waves. And I don't approach surfing that way at all anymore. I'm far more aligned with the way you just described it. But I wonder, would I be able to? Because I can go out into a crowded lineup and get and choose fun waves and have a good time. But if I hadn't gone through that obsessed sort of FOMO stage of my surfing life, would I still have the surf knowledge and the calmness and the ocean awareness to be able to do that? And like, if I've got a client who's already a bit of an older surfer and is starting later, do I need to encourage them to go through that obsessed? You need to be obsessed with surfing and surfing all the time and, you know, blah, 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 in order to get better? Or can you have that mature, laid back, present, and still become a good surfer and read the ocean and get your reps in?
That's a really great thought. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think, well, they have something, like, speaking about your client, different than we had, which is us, an instructor.
Hmm.
So maybe that supplements some of the knowledge they would otherwise have needed to get through obsession. Um, yeah, but that's a really good point. I think there's a version of it for them, a version of obsessed, which is basically like ignorant to conditions, or not ignorant, but just don't care. Maybe they know it's good or bad conditions on the scale of what surfers consider, but don't care about it. Be obsessed enough that you just want to surf. Like, if you have this window, that's your time, you're going surfing, well, within reason. I'm not telling people to paddle out and bombing onshore conditions, but I'm just talking about, there's quite a lot of days that the lineup is mostly empty. I mean, it empty compared with what it would look like if it was clean and offshore, just because the wind is on it a little bit. It's a little wrinkled, it's a little ruffled. We've really trained something in our eyes to see that as not good. And that kind of blows my mind because, like I said earlier, I remember not even being able to see, like, all I saw, it was black and white. It was whitewater or no whitewater. Like, there was a wave or there wasn't a wave. That was it. Can I ride it? In fact, I even remember being excited when the wind was on shore because I knew there had to be something. Something had to be breaking if there was an onshore wind. It's a little more risky when it was an offshore wind. Like, sometimes you'd go, and I mean, I'm in New York, so we do have some real deal flat spells where flat is flat. I'm not talking like it's small, it's flat. Like, there isn't a breaking wave, maybe just a little ankle slapper lapping up on the beach. And, so you're like turning around and going home.
Mm.
totally bummed. So I think there's a version of it, for the older folk who start later in life. But yeah, I don't know. I can't say with any kind of certainty. Well, what do you think about it? What do you feel? Are you conflicted by it, or do you have an answer if they should be obsessive like you were as a kid?
I think a lot of it's got to do with managing their expectations, first of all. If they're in a
Mm,
position where they've worked hard, they've saved money, and they can afford to, to go and spend 6 weeks in the Maldives and take a bunch of boards with you, surf for 8 hours a day. Hell yeah. But
sure, yeah.
you if you're a bit older, maybe it's not 8 hours a day, maybe it's five, and you've got to get a massage afterwards to, you don't have a young body anymore. So little nuance managing expectations like that. I also totally agree with what you said. Back then, we didn't have us. Like one of the biggest tips in my surfing journey was when Tom Carroll said you got to look for the details. Remember going surfing with him, and he was in his late 40s, and I'm in my early 30s, and he's catching these waist high waves and just doing full roundhouse cutbacks going 4 times faster than anyone else. I couldn't even catch these waves, and I was on a thicker board. I was like, how? And he's just
Mm,
looking for the details, looking at the ripples, getting eyes down and looking across. And that now I'm looking for the details in the waves
hmm
and the refractions and the secondary and tertiary swells and the way the water's drawing off the bottom, the way that the tides. So I can impart that now onto new surfers. And often when I go surfing with someone, or if it's a one-on-one surf lesson, I'm not really doing traditional video footage and surf technique analysis. I'm more of a surf guide, and I'm saying, see how there's that little indicator, that little wave that broke, 400 meters out there, hit that rock, and there's that splash. That means there's a set coming from the south, and we're going to paddle across here. And you see that bump here, then it's that wave sliding across to there. I want you to paddle over there and take off on an angle. So I'm trying to impart some of the details that I'm seeing in
mm,
the waves so that they can start to look for it now earlier on in the
mm,
surf journey. I think that also for the older surfers, they need to know those details because they're not as young and supple and they can't make as many mistakes. Their bodies aren't made of rubber and have endless energy and less inflammation. So you've got to sort of teach them that stuff. They're obviously a bit older, so they're open to it as well. And I also think that information helps calm the nervous system as well, so they can actually be a bit more
mm.
relaxed in the water.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nuanced, and it certainly does depend on the client and their expectations and also their intentions. Like it makes me think of I did an episode recently. I read some books about longevity and did an episode where I sort of summarized them in terms of surfing. It's like we can become better surfers as we get older, and it's sort of maybe not better as in WSL surf technique, ripping a shortboard better. That's not what I meant, right? I meant
hmm
we can go out and catch better waves and be more selective and choose the right surfboard and when we surf, and if we maintain our bodies to a certain degree, even maintaining a certain level of surfing as we age is a progression.
Agreed. Yeah.
And then I interviewed someone a couple of episodes after I released that, and he was listening to that episode, and he started listening to the episode thinking, oh, I can get better as a shortboarder. So he had this intention of thinking in his late 40s, oh, I can become a better shortboarder. And I was thinking, well, no, you kind of misread that. So he went
Yeah,
into it
yeah.
with his own intentions and didn't really even
Right.
hear what I was saying. So so I think we need to be really realistic. If you're in your late 40s, and you started surfing late in life, you're probably not going to become better at doing a top turn on 6 foot waves. It's just,
Right, right.
it's unlikely. Is it impossible? No, not impossible. Especially you look at Kelly Slater, but I think a lot of people might not realize is Kelly Slater, that's his full-time job. I guarantee you he's getting a massage, probably at least 3 massages a week. He's spending a lot of money on good nutrition. He's getting his sleep. He's probably got a nanny that helps him with his kids so we can, there's his life is focused on maintaining his surfing level. So if you have the resources to really focus on it, yeah, maybe you can. But I think it's mostly about managing expectations and being realistic. And I guess to summarize, it's defining or perhaps redefining what getting better at surfing means.
I really like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely I can really agree with that. Even I liked how you said just maintaining a certain level of surfing as you age is getting better because all the laws of the universe are pointing to you getting worse as you get older. You get stiffer, you're fighting an uphill battle. So if you're able to maintain, it's a form of getting better. But also, like you said, I think getting better at surfing can be seen or the basis for what is getting better is multiple things, and just the maturity. I think one of the reasons I've gotten better at surfing is not necessarily how I ride the waves, but because of that concept of the art of missing waves and really making it a tangible thing for myself. Like not this obscure kind of thought floating around in my head that sort of floats up every once in a while and I'm like, "Oh yeah, remember that?" But like no, this is like a now it's a written down like it's almost like I've journaled it to myself, that to be able to miss waves in a graceful way is a version of me getting better as a surfer and not taking away from my family or from, things I need to do in my life because I just need to go surfing right now. The waves are good and I got to go. Like what kind of person is that you have to bail on things because of surfing? That's, in my opinion, that's sort of not a good surfer because, like I said, a surfer is just a person. And if a person is bailing on family or these things, then you're not a great person. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm just saying you could be better. And that would also make you a good surfer. You know what I mean? But the standard for what you're measuring against, it's important to identify that scale. That's
Even
how we can get better.
yeah, even letting go of FOMO as you age, that's getting better at surfing.
Yeah. Yes, that was it. Yeah, thank you for saying it better than I did. It took me like 100 words, and you did it in a couple. But like, yeah, not having FOMO. Don't do that to yourself. Why torture yourself? Because if you really think about it, there's millions of waves breaking every moment, all the time, and some of them are epic, world class. Some of them are very far away. Some of them are within reach, and you're not riding those because you don't know about. So don't torture yourself just because you know the waves were good and you can't go. There's good waves all over the place every moment of the day. You're missing
Mm.
them all. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, that's another point. Is like there's a famous quote from Oki, which goes something like, "If you're not surfing good waves, you're denying yourself as a surfer." And I believe
If
that,
you're not sorry.
yeah, like you know what it's like
Okay.
when you go on a tropical surf trip and you surf one of those long period swells on a windless day at a reef break. It's just, you would travel, 2 days to surf three of those waves and
Mm,
come home happy. That's how good, a good quality, thick, long period swell on a windless reef is. You'd swap three of those waves for four 4 hour sessions at your local average beach break.
sure. Sure, but I think let's keep going down the uh philosophical route and think that it's only because you don't get it all the time. If you had that every single day without question, sort of like the wave pool kind of pickle we're getting ourselves into. If that's always available to you, is it gonna continue to be as sweet? Is it gonna continue to be so wonderful? It's only because it's out of your ability to consistently take and get that we can't abuse, like why do drug addicts become drug addicts and alcoholics and people? Because it's something that's consistently available if you seek it out. And because the human condition is to we all have a little bit of an addict in ourselves. We want more and more and more of something that we like.
Yeah.
And so if we could do that with surfing, we'd spoil it for ourselves. It's great that we cannot score all the time that good because it helps us learn to appreciate it when it happens. And when it doesn't, you're just putting in your hours and putting in your reps for when it does happen again.
Well, I think what I was getting at there was it's quality over quantity. I think is something
Oh,
that's
yeah,
so, you maybe work 6 weeks in a row in order to save up to go on a surf trip to
I
get
got
a,
you now. Yeah, I
to
missed
get it
that.
to get away from the crowd, or even specifically like where I surf is kind of like a novelty point break where even on a good day, maybe one in every 20 waves sort of lines up properly and doesn't have refracted swells and wind chops on it and actually breaks across the point properly. So I might sit in the right spot and actually just tease a bunch of people into the ones I don't want, and then just waiting for my detailed eye to choose that one wave that I know is going to actually, and it's usually not the biggest wave of the set. It's one of the medium ones that doesn't have a wave in front of it or a wave breaking across it. So I'm teasing everyone into the other ones, thinking that I'm hungry, but I'm actually just being patient and selective with, because I'd rather catch two of those in a session and get three good
Hmm.
turns in and then jump in my car and go home rather than pump my way and catch waves that don't break properly. So yeah, quality over quantity as you age, I think is better too. And it also sort of gives you something to, I also find that surfing when it's new, it's like anything. It really encompasses your attention. I just recently got my motorbike license. And when I first started riding the motorbike, I was scared initially because now I've got to look at the road differently. And
Mm.
it just, I was 100% focused. And now as I sort of getting a bit better, I found myself of being a bit too relaxed almost.
Hmm.
But then what I have to do now is think, okay, I just need to look for the details on the road. So that Tom Carroll sort of, that his tip comes into my mind. And I'm always looking, even when I'm sitting out the back waiting for a set, I'm just really looking at that little sliver of horizon and just trying to predict where's that next set coming. Is it a wide set? Is it a bigger set? Is it a smaller set? So really, just I think focusing in on the details with the intention of looking for the best of the best on that day,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
like like
Yeah.
a new mountain biker who's coming down a track. You want to stay on that meter wide track, right? You want to stay on the track, and you're like, it's so exciting. You're going fast, and well, you think you're going fast, and then as you get better and better at mountain biking, you're starting to look, where exactly is the center of my tire going, and
Right.
what's the fastest way through that track. Just like with surfing, right? You
Hmm.
initially you see that one swell coming in, but
Right.
now you're looking, oh, there's actually three swells in the water, and there's a wind chop, and there's refractions, and I'm actually looking for the part of the wave where the water's moving most, and where exactly am I going to put my rail? So your focus narrows in and becomes more detail orientated. It helps you to surf
Hmm.
faster, but it also helps you to choose better quality waves and helps you to keep focused through your surf as well.
Yeah, yeah. It takes one of the most important qualities of a surfer, which is their positioning, and it just keeps tightening up as you're like you said, the details. Now you're no longer trying to be in this spot. You're trying to be in that spot, this tiny little one between your fingers compared with the big wide, broad range. But I love the way you talk about, seeing waves and it's putting to words some of the things that I think and but sometimes struggle with articulating. When a wave, just like you said, there's always some nuance, there's always some detail to be looking at when a wave's coming in. Even on the most perfect of conditioned days, there's little humps and, you know, things happening in the water that cause you to maybe just shift over a lane to catch the wave or, and I like the way you describe it. I'd love to surf with you. You're not around here though, huh? What's your local spot, by the way? What's that point break? Are you allowed to say?
I'm in Hawke's Bay. I'll keep the spot quiet, but yeah, I'm in New Zealand in a place called Hawke's Bay at the moment. But a few years ago, I was based in Malibu. I was doing a lot of surf guiding and coaching out there. I miss that place. It's such it's an amazing part of the world. But yeah, no, I think that the more I think about the details and the more I'm able to focus in on it, the more I get out of surfing, I think. It's the same with anything in life, right? You actually it makes me remember a story which I don't think I've told on this podcast, so I'll tell it to you now. Is I was out
Great.
I was out at Uluwatu surfing. Oh gosh, must have been 2016, right when Jack Robinson had started on tour and he had sort of made the WCT and was this sort of tube riding savant. I don't know if you remember when he first
Hmm.
came in. Did he win the
I
Pipe
do.
Masters
Yeah.
or he did well? It was just with he was amazing in the tube.
Well, I think he was pretty good, not to get off of your story. He was pretty good in the beginning, but he hit a year early in his career, but not necessarily the first one, if I remember correctly, where it was like, whoa, he's or maybe that was before maybe he hit that stride before he even joined the WSL. But anyway, sorry,
Mm.
continue with your
Yeah, it
story.
might have been 2017. Anyway, I'm sitting out the back at Uluwatu waiting for a wider set, and Jack Robinson's dad paddles up to me, and he's a very talkative chap. And I'd met him a few years earlier at a local comp down in Manly, where I was living at the time in Sydney, and he recognized me and just started talking my ear off.
Hmm.
And I just said to him, Jack had just come on the tour and everyone was talking about how good he was in the tube. And I asked him, I said, why do you think Jack is so good in the barrel as such a young surfer? And he just looked at me and he said, he builds boats inside of bottles. I was like, oh, what?
Hmm.
That's an interesting. Why say that? And he said,
Yeah.
because it takes him hours and it's fine motor control and a very, very clear, focused intention on the finer details. That's how you build boats inside of bottles. And that's how he rides tubes so well,
Huh.
which blew my
What?
mind at the time. And I remember
Totally.
a wave came in and I took it and I never saw him again.
That's hilarious. Wow, what an interesting answer. And the way you tell it sounds like he's very sure that that's what it is. Well, I see it, for me, if I were to describe why that's a contributing factor, is just like that, the precision of it. You don't have all the space of a desk to, scatter items and whatever, you are consolidated into this one tiny space. Not only that, but it bottlenecks even further, and you have to fit your pieces through there. So that's a really interesting take on why he's such a good tube rider.
Yeah.
I love it. Leave it to the old timers to have one of those kinds of answers for you, No straightforward like, oh, he points his hand and he looks at it on his way out. None of that stuff. It's the building the boats in the bottle. That's what does it.
Yeah. I always remember that. It stuck with me. Yeah. I think you got to have focus, you're detailed focused for hours on end to do that. So
Mm.
if you're out surfing an intense wave in Western Australia where he's from, you have to be focused the whole time. You can't just I think a lot of people think that you can just sit there in between sets and wait for a set to come in. That's not what good surfers do. They don't.
No, of course not.
No, you know what, you ever tried to talk to a good experienced surfer? No, that they won't even
They're
hear
gone.
they won't hear you. You think they're
Yeah, yeah,
being
yeah.
rude. They actually be the friendliest guy you've ever met in the car park. But when they're surfing, they won't even acknowledge your presence because they are hyper focused on the horizon. They want to know when that next set
Hmm.
is coming in and they want to start paddling for it before you've even seen it.
Hmm. Hmm.
I
Yep,
remember
yep.
surfing with Nathan Hedge once, and everyone's sitting in the water waiting for a set, and Nathan Hedge starts paddling, and everyone's like, Why are you paddling?" And he paddles like an animal. And next thing you know, 20 seconds later, everyone else sees the set and starts paddling, but he's already in the right position and he's already moving. He's already hungry. It doesn't matter if someone was in a better position than him. Nathan Hedges wants it more and is actually in a better
Mm.
position. So he gets the wave because he's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
focused on the details, that little sliver of, because that's all it is when you think about it. You're looking at such a thin sliver of horizon to see those sets come in. No wonder it takes so long to learn. We're looking for such fine little details on the horizon. So that's what I think that's what helps keep me present. That's what I'm trying to get better at surfing really is reading the ocean and the finer details, not just when I'm surfing a wave, like a mountain biker going down a track, but also while I'm trying to predict where the next set is coming in and where it's going to break. And just a quick interruption of this episode to remind you all the stuff that I'm talking about here, about reading the ocean, reading the way water moves, that is all in my course about the fundamentals of surfing, which includes all of that stuff, plus how to catch waves, paddling, and the pop-up. Everything that happens in between when the surfboard is under your arm and under your feet, which is actually the hardest part of surfing, which is getting on the wave in the right place and knowing what to look for. That's what my course is all about. That's the Surf Mastery Method mini course at surfmastery.com. Back to the episode now. You're using your peripheral vision to sort of be aware of where everyone else is, who's paddling. So much going on, because I think it's just as much, especially nowadays, about reading the ocean. It's about reading the crowd as well, knowing who can, who
Yeah.
has, yeah. So you've got to have a minor in psychology as well to get
Well,
waves
you,
of
you said a
crowds.
really good you said a really good thing. Well, two things I wanted to talk. One, I'll just say is that I really like that explanation for why surfers can seem a little cold in the water. And that's a really good explanation for why. It's because they're focused, their mind's elsewhere. This isn't chit chat hour. It's not coffee time. It's I'm out here to catch a few waves, and that takes a high focus, especially as you get better and you know what you're looking for. And then the other thing I liked was the intention. When you show intention, like Nathan Hedge was so intent on his positioning and getting there for that wave that even if somebody had been in better position, perhaps they just sort of, all right, go ahead, you want it more. And I think that's a thing that comes up quite a bit in my sessions with students, because naturally a student, a beginner, or even a practicing surfer in their early years can easily show hesitation. They can easily back off or think that someone else is going, when really that says a lot about what happens for you in the water. Do you get waves or not? Just how intent are you? You can get waves that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten just by continuing for a little longer or showing your intention. And you, because I'm just saying, I always want my students to be respectful and respect good, surf etiquette. But the gap between when you're exercising good etiquette and when you're just being hesitant, it's usually a large one. There's a lot more room to continue and still be polite, and then find out, like, oh, that person's actually not in good position. Something changed. They're pulling back. They don't want the wave, or they saw you going and they just want to let you go. They didn't want that wave that bad in the first place, but no one else was. Just so many circumstances and situations unfold as they progress. And if you don't show intention long enough, up until the point of the decision, there does come a point where it's like, okay, decision time. If I go, am I burning somebody or am I doing something bad? Or did everything change from just moments ago when I thought I shouldn't go? It's a good talking point that often comes up with my students and myself of intention. Have a little bit more commitment and intention, and because it displays in your body language, and it reads as beginners look hesitant. So you can almost fool people with your intention as that you're a little bit better than you are, just keep going. Just keep going a little longer. Keep setting that wave up. Pull back if it really is a no-go situation.
Yes, every surfer has approaches it so differently. Not everyone's out there just to catch lots of waves. Sometimes I think the nice person in us thinks that, and we let them maybe, and then they don't even catch the wave anyway. Like, oh, I could have had that one, but well,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
could, you should have wanted it more. It's not unethical to be hungry to catch waves, and
Right,
there are
right.
surfers out there who don't want to talk to anyone. There's some surfers that go out there to talk to everyone, and there's everything in between. And
Yeah, yeah,
even,
yeah.
gosh, even my
Sure.
10 year even my 10-year-old, sometimes I paddle up to him and like, do you want me to help you catch your wave? He's like, you know what, Dad, I just love sitting out here and just looking at the. And I'm like, oh, okay. So
Wow, that's a really mature thing for a 10-year-old to say.
I know it blows my mind sometimes. I'm like, you'd think he'd be hungry and wanting to catch waves, but no, sometimes he's happy just to sit out the back for a bit and enjoy it.
I bet it has a lot to do with, did somebody introduce surfing to you in your family, or did you find it on your own and
I
kind of
found
pursue it yourself?
I found it on my own, right? Basically, yeah, yeah.
Well, that's what I thought sort of felt like. It works with my philosophy, what I'm just gonna say. We both found surfing the same way. Like it wasn't given to us through our family, our fathers or something, and we got to do it so easily, so early. I had to fight for it. I really had to fight hard. I had to save money to get my first surfboard. It wasn't easy. So
Mm.
when I got it, I was hungry. I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
wanted it. Whereas I think your son maybe has a little bit more of a healthy approach because it's a little bit more abundant for him. He can get it easily, just like you said. His dad's always there to come right up to him and offer a help to get a wave. So it probably helps him to see, the bigger picture a little better. Whereas
Yeah.
us, we were so desperate just to get on waves and keep progressing and in the way that we thought progression meant.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm aware of the time. Did you have to go on the hour, or have I got you for a bit
No,
longer?
no, no, yeah, you got me. I let it rip.
So, what's the best piece of surfing advice that you've ever received personally?
I don't know if it's the best, but it just came to mind. And it is just because they can't surf good doesn't mean they can't fight. And one of my role model surfer guides, like informal, I went through a period of my life where didn't really have a lot of friends to go surfing with, but this older guy, well, I guess he's probably how old I am now, in his later 30s, he would take me surfing all the time. He was a really important figure in my life, like a father. I have a great father, still do, but I was also a teenager, so my dad wasn't as cool to me then, And this guy was kind of like my temporary father that I actually respected and listened to, and he surfed, and it was just this really important, good person in my life, and he taught me so many things. But I paddled back out one time all fired up, because somebody dropped in on me, and the guy he dropped in and went straight. He didn't know what he was doing. It was clear as day. And I'm all hot and heavy, and I'm like, oh man, that guy, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I'm talking up, Mr. Big Shot over here. Probably was just starting to get somewhere with my surfing. Like, I could actually do a little something, go down the line. I could, do what I wanted
Yeah.
to some extent. And so I'm getting all proud and cocky. And he goes, man, just because you can't surf doesn't mean you can't fight. You be careful and don't get yourself beat up. And it actually landed. I was like, damn, that's true. Like who knows who this guy is? Like, what if I go, you know, acting all Mr. Big Shot and I just get completely humbled? I mean, it might not be the best, but it's up there. It's good advice. And I have a follow-up story for that. A good friend of mine was teaching a surf lesson, and in the tourist thing, and he's out there with this student. It's coming up on the end time, so he's getting a little anxious to get them in on a wave. And one of the local hot shots is just getting wave after wave, lapping them. And mostly that's just how it goes. Good surfers get good waves and more waves. But I think he got to the point where he's like, dude, next wave, we got to go in. We're taking it, just so you know. And he tells the young guy. And young guy goes. My friend, the instructor, launches his student into the wave. And the young guy goes, he's like, he gets upset about it. And he goes and tells his father, he's like old enough to be mad and want to start something, not old enough to, do it on his own. He goes and tells his dad, who's also a little bit of a hothead.
Mm.
Comes up to my friend and he gets in his face and he's yelling and doing all these things, surf lessons, this and you and blah blah blah. And my friend's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, relax. Like, I was working for you when your son was born. Remember when I covered your shift and you went and your son like, dude, calm down, okay? All right. So anyway, whole situation tempers down, walks away, nothing happens. And the student goes, hey, man, I'm really proud of you the way you handled that. You were really mature and calm. I just want you to know, though, if it got bad, I'm a black belt in jujitsu. It would have been no problem for me to handle this. And he texted me right away. I wasn't there for this, but he texted me and he goes, dude, just because you can't surf doesn't mean you can't fight. And I've told that story before. So he thought of me right away. And I loved it. I was so proud of him for the way he handled himself. And I was just so like, it was such a Hollywood moment, to have it actually happen where This guy is quietly standing behind you. You think he's some kook who can't surf, and really he's like a great fighter who would know how to handle himself, no problem.
I like that. Gosh, I'll extend it too. Just because they can't surf doesn't mean they're not mentally ill. I had one guy who was
Whoa, yeah.
a very eccentric, extroverted surfer, and he was terrible at surfing. So we'd just kind of surf around him a little bit and be a bit sort of maybe rude to him because he would always try and surf places that were out of his league.
Mm.
And he'd get angry. He'd never do anything about it. He almost it sort of seemed like a weird dude. And I must have pissed him off because he really didn't like me. And then he loosened the wheel nuts on my car one day.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
That's diabolical.
yeah. So be,
Whoa.
you never know what someone's capable of.
Jeez, that's insane.
I know. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, there you have it, Be a good person and you're a good surfer.
Yeah. What is some of the biggest mistakes or the biggest mistake that you see that sort of that beginner, early intermediate make some of your students? Is there some common threads?
Sure. Yeah. Um, there's a list of them, but I can't help myself but say, especially when it comes to adults, not boogie boarding first, not learning how to play in the ocean first. People come and they want to learn how to surf and they want to be serious about it right away. And I respect that. I take the learning process seriously, but there's a lot to learn in play. And it's how children learn the whole world through play. And when it comes to the beach and surfing, boogie boarding is the version of play that most of us have done to learn how to surf. So there's a lot of basic principles there that are totally, they become brand new when you're doing it on a surfboard, but a surfboard is bigger. It's harder. It's more difficult to manage. It can be more dangerous. You get less reps. So it just really sets you up for a difficult journey when you don't have a little foundation of, jumping on a boogie over and over again, 100 times in an hour, trying to set your rail, pull into a little closeout, slide up on the beach, how to roll with the wave when you wipe, all those things. That's one of the big ones for me. And then there's the
Mm,
obvious, positions on the board, people using their body position on the board to try and prevent a nosedive, which so often leads to nosediving because now your board's not moving efficiently. You're not able to tilt over the ledge of the wave when you should. You get delayed and caught up in the lip. And when you finally do catch the wave, the thing's, vertical and ready to go. You should have been in it moments ago. There's those counterintuitive solutions that people use, or the solution is counterintuitive. The obvious, solution to the beginner is like, oh, move back on my board so I don't nosedive. If I'm way back on my board, I won't nosedive. And no, actually, move up or be in the right position, catch the wave properly on time, and have a much more, user friendly. But that's like obvious stuff. I prefer more like the big picture. Get on a boogie, go ride a boogie board. Like have it in your quiver at the very least when you get your first surfboard. Also get a boogie board because it just opens up your world of opportunities and when you can go surf, when you can go have fun and get a couple reps in.
totally. Yeah. Like, did you watch that episode of the Tim Ferriss show where he decided surfing was something he wanted to get good at as quick as possible, and he hired Laird Hamilton as a coach, and that's the first thing Laird Hamilton did. So, right, we're just gonna go and play on the whitewater, no surfboard or anything.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but I love it. I'm so happy to hear that because I feel like I'm like it's like a novel thing I'm saying. Like people look at me like, no, no, I want to learn how to surf, and it's like, yeah, I know. This is how.
Yeah.
Want to learn how to spell, read, and write, but you don't want to learn the alphabet. It's like you can't.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. When one of the best and most famous surfers in the world didn't start till he was 17, which
Who's that?
when I interviewed him, it blew my mind and it didn't even make any sense to me. Robert Wingnut Weaver
Really?
didn't start surfing till
Wingnut didn't start surfing till 17.
that's right. And And after I dug a little bit deeper, it turns out he'd been body surfing since he was 5. That's why.
Okay, I got a great story. My favorite session of the summer last year. I had this woman, brand new, comes through my system, like a normal first timer, not someone that knows me and skips that all and texts me or something like that. Books, blah, 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 does the whole thing. I meet her on the beach. It's everything is like you'd expect for the first day of a first student. So I do the usual. We go off onto the flat water. We have like a nice deep area right adjacent to the break that's perfect for beginners. But I don't even, just because it's perfect for beginners, I don't take beginners straight out. We go to the deep water. I show her how to turn her surfboard while sitting. I show her how to turn it while she's paddling. I show her how to lay on the board, how to, and she looks great. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And it's a mellow, gentle day. So I'm like, let's go. Okay, we got 15 minutes left. Let's go over and see if we can apply this to catching a wave. And I have no standards, no expectations. I'll be happy if she catches a wave. And I tell her that. So she does. First wave, I'm just like, okay, let's sit up. We're turning, lay down. She lays down perfectly. These are all the little things that go wrong, when a wave's coming for a beginner.
Mm.
They can't, all of a sudden, they're sitting in the middle of the board trying to turn instead of the tail, like I just showed them, and they did it 20 times. Okay, they lay down and they're all the way up on the nose, or vice versa, all the way on the tail. All those things that go wrong, and we're like, okay, let the wave go. It's not going right. She's doing it all perfectly, just like we practiced in the flat water, but now with the pressure of a wave and the timing having to be right. She gets the wave. She presses up. I teach my students actually when they're learning, don't stand up. I teach them how to press themselves up as they're like a beginning to stand up, but in that moment, pause and look down the line and start engaging your rail.
Mm-hmm.
So she does that and sort of goes down the line. I'm like, oh, no way. Come on back out here. Let's do that again. Stand up this time. Why not? So she does. Oh, I may have gotten it a little backwards. Maybe her first wave, she just goes straight. But she did all the things so well to catch the wave. I'm like, hey, let's do your press up and set your rail. So then she presses up, sets her rails, go down the line. That's what it was. The second time she presses up, doesn't stand up. That's the other thing I appreciated. Didn't have this idea in her head. I have to stand up. I'm surfing. She respected my instruction and she stayed in her press up posture, sets her rail, and just goes down the line. I was like, amazing. All right, bring it back out. We're going to close the deal. I want you to do everything the same, but this time you can, after you press yourself up and start going down the line, stand all the way up. And she does. You knew that was coming. She goes down the line. She even does a dismount at the end. It's one of my favorite points of like a good surfer is how do you complete your wave? And for a beginner, you can practice this immediately. Sit down at the end. Don't jump off your board. Certainly don't dive. Don't jump on the way. Don't do any of those things. Dismount. Control your finish.
Mm.
So I'm floored. I'm like, that was insane. That was like the most ideal session you could have with a brand new beginner. First time, I'm like, are you sure you've never surfed before? I felt like Wingnut, actually. I think it was Wingnut, and then the summer too, when he's like, oh, I'm going to teach this girl how to surf, and turns out she's been surfing for years. Was it Wingnut or was it Pat O'Connell?
It's been a while
But
since I watched
anyway,
that.
yeah. I forgot too. But anyway, I felt like she was tricking me. I felt like somebody set me up to play a joke on me and be like, yeah, teach this beginner. But actually, she knew how to surf. And she swore up and down she never surfed before. But she goes, yeah, but you know what? I do boogie board all the time. And I was like, thank you. Okay. You are like my new, like, I'm going to do something with you marketing. Like, you have to tell this story. We have to make something of this because it just really, in such a perfect way, proved my point that boogie boarding is such a foundation. Standing up is not hard. Catching away, all those things are not hard when you have the foundation of and understanding and the repetition and practice of jumping into waves over and over again and understanding the feeling of a wave lifting you up and all those basic things, but on a board that's manageable and something you can just buy in the store and do it on your own. You don't need an instructor. It's not intimidating like surfing is to get into. You got to be a certain type of person that goes and buys a surfboard and just starts trying to surf. It's like mountain climbing, like or like serious mountain climbing. I wouldn't just go do that by myself.
Mm.
I would find people. I would figure out like how do I do this correctly so I don't kill myself. Like I would respect the sport and the dangers of it. And so I feel like I wish more people had that with surfing. Like, oh, okay, I like surfing. It sounds good, but I need some guidance here. I'm not gonna just try and go do it. You wouldn't just go try and climb El Capitan, like
Yeah.
that's a serious endeavor. You'd need guidance, you need practice and work your way up to it. But anyway, it was my story for proving that the boogie board is the key. You want to become a better surfer, in your older years, get a boogie. And your younger years too. If
Oh
you
yeah.
haven't surfed before,
It's
boogie.
reading the ocean is the foundation of
Yeah, that's what it is.
whether it's body surfing, bodyboarding, boogie boarding, or surfing or whatever. It's that reading the oceans. Surfing's actually really simple, isn't it? Really, I mean, even
It
when
is. It
even
certainly
high
is.
performance surfing. Look at Oki surf. Watch his body; it barely moves.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just rhythm and timing, the way he leans. Even John, when he's not doing anything too dynamic, his technique is so subtle.
Mm,
There's not actually that much movement going on. I think the pop up is the hardest maneuver in surfing.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that is the hardest part, isn't it? Because the limitations of like hip mobility and flexibility, especially for the older gentlemen,
Mm,
the gentlemen really struggle with the hips and the lower back, they're tight down there. And it really makes the stand up the hard part.
yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, Chris, tell us about your website before we let you go.
Okay, built it myself, so it ain't no pro site. The surfcontinuum.com is just it serves two purposes. It's just, my business and how you find me and book a session, but we also built like a little bit of a membership library on there. It was during COVID. I had imagined doing this for a while, and COVID presented the perfect opportunity to have a ton of time and not really feel guilty about sitting inside the house all day, and working on something on the computer. So that's when I put my mind to building this library, and I upload our podcast videos like the moment we record them. I'm a little on and off about releasing public episodes, but the membership site has a new one all the time.
Hmm.
And I slowly catch up to them, publicly. But then I answer questions for members on there. They can write in, and I do, a video question and answer with Coach Evan. And then there's one last part of the puzzle, which is just our videos that inspire us to talk about something analytical or just a topic. That's basically a podcast, I'd say, but with a video as the main core. And so that's been in existence since, yeah, COVID. So that's 2020, I guess. And now we're starting to evolve it a little bit. We're incorporating a little bit more of a live feature to it. So one thing I just sort of started coming to the realization is the reason why the most successful aspect of my business is my personal coaching. That's what keeps me the busiest. That's what really pays the bills. The membership site's great. It's a nice machine that's a little supplemental thing. But I was just thinking about why, because it's pretty reasonable. You could easily join if you're interested in getting better at surfing. It's a really cheap way to get insight from two surfers who really not only have been surfing their whole lives, but care about trying to, explain this kind of stuff, beginner stuff, and getting better at surfing stuff. So I was like, oh, why is it not better or more popular or just, reaching more people? And the conclusion, whether right or wrong, I came to is that I'm not present on it in a live sense. It's totally different when you watch a video, an archival version or a past video compared with when you can participate in a group setting. And that also brought up that also creates a community. When you can join with other people who are in your position, you start to have this ability to be part of something. And let's face it, surf culture is tough to crack into, especially older. Surfers are not the most welcoming, not many. But I guess because, well, I don't know, I don't want to go there, but whatever it is, it's tough for some people to find their people. And if you want to keep surfing and be consistent about your practice, it really, really helps when you have other people to sort of go with or know are in the same piece of the journey with you. And so, yeah, that's where we're going now. We did our first live call recently and it went great. It was really exciting to have people like to see some excitement around it. And yeah, we're going to continue to do that. So create this just, one thing I know for sure is that nothing comes out perfectly formed. You have to just start, and let it evolve into what it needs to be. And so that's what this membership site has been. It's, just start. It wasn't perfect. It's just these videos of us recording things. And now the live version is the same. It's not a perfect version of but as we do them, we're realizing, oh, okay, we can do this and that. And I would definitely encourage anybody to check it out because you can do it just for a month and see one live call and if it fits or doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And
Cool.
that's the
So
website.
if someone out there listening happens to be in the New York area, they can book a one-on-one session with you as well in person.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm in Montauk. That's
Yep.
on the east end of Long Island. As far as the East Coast is concerned, it's one of the better places, to be a surfer. We have probably the most consistency. Maybe Cape Hatteras does a little better than us, but also on the West Coast in Southern California is my partner, Coach Evan. And so from the same website, they'll be able to link up with one of us, whether it's on the East Coast in Montauk or West Coast around the Orange County, San Diego area.
Okay, great. So, listeners, if you liked Chris's philosophy and you want to learn more, you can do one-on-one with him or his business partner in those two areas. And of course, you can go check out some stuff at surfcontinuum.com. And what we didn't end up talking about was your podcast, the Kookcast. So
Oh yeah.
obviously people listening are into podcasts and into surfing. So yeah, Chris has a massive, and Chris and Coach Evan have a massive library there at Kookcast on whatever podcast platform you tune in on. So go and check that out as well. Chris, appreciate your time, and there'll be links to all that stuff in the show notes as always. Thanks, listeners. Thanks for tuning in, and keep surfing. Thanks, Chris. Thank you for tuning in to the Surf Mastery podcast. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this podcast channel. It helps the algorithm a lot. If you're new to the show, remember this is a timeless podcast. Every episode is educational. There is nothing about current affairs in this podcast, so go back. There is a big library going all the way back to 2015. Make sure you go and check out surfcontinuum.com and follow Surf Continuum on Instagram. Links in the show notes. And remember, if you haven't already checked out the Surf Paddle Trainer from Surf Basis, go and check that out too. And as a listener of this podcast, you get a discount using the discount code Surf Mastery. That's surfbasis.com for the Surf Paddle Trainer. Discount code Surf Mastery for $30 off, and it helps support the show too. So until next time, keep surfing.